Um, we're going to be creating the actual services for the one that we have created. So this is the route that we have created, but we really need to create the services for it. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the tenant ID. Oh yeah. So let's just make this easier. So I already created something here, like finance or no contact controller. So I have a create function here. Let's just look at it as a reference. So what I did is I took the contact information from the web or from the front end. So that's what I'm going to do now here. So I'm going to get all the items information. So it's going to be, yeah, instead of this one, I'm just going to add items interface. Yeah, how about that one? Item data body. So this is going to be item data. So this item consists of what we see on the interface. It's going to be like this. So that data has company IDs or tenant's ID code. Yep, let me just close this one. So so I'm going to detect if this item data is empty. So I'm going to throw an error. Throw new error response. So request body is empty. Yeah. So I'm going to throw an error if the request body is empty. So the best practice is I'm not supposed to be getting all the data from the controller. I should create the services for that one. So that's what I'm going to create now, a service function. So as such, it is named item, and following this one, it is item services. So this is the actual place where I'm going to get all the data from the database and create data from to the database. Yeah, so just going to be following this one. Oh, never mind. I'm just going to create it from scratch. So just going to import the next function from Express. I think this is not next function, but it's capitalized. Yeah. So item services consist of many functions, and I just export that one. Item services. There you go. So I'm going to create item by company ID and company and tenant ID, I guess. All right. And yeah, company ID. So it will take a company ID, and it will also take the next function. Why would we need a next function? So that if there's an error, it will still be forwarded. And then I'm just going to return null if it failed. So right now it has company ID, and the last one, yeah, I forgot something. So if we're trying to create something, it will take the item data from the server, from the web, right? So I'm just going to put it in here. Item interface. Yeah, there you go. So we now have a company ID, which is this one, which is a string, and the item data, which is the item interface. And okay, so I'm just going to put it in here now. So creating the item. So for me to create an item, I'm just going to create item model dot create, And for me to create this one, I'm just going to pass in the item data, because this create get, or if I'm just going to put some random data here, like example some data, it will actually detect that this is not the correct data that I should be, or that this function should be creating, because this function only takes item interface. That's why this item data is also item interface, so that it is also paired with the data that we're supposed to be creating. So yeah, so this item data is already item interface, so it succeeds. And yeah, forgot to make this function asynchronous. So there you go. So this is now the created item, and we're just going to await this one. So this created item is, what this is the item interface. So if there's no created item, I'm just going to throw an error if we failed on creating an item. So yeah, failed to create item, then this 400, and then if it succeeds, I'm just going to return the created item. There you go. So with TypeScript, we're going to create a return value. So this function returns a promise, a synchronous promise of item interface, or null. Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to be putting it here. There you go. So create item by company, and right now I'm just going to use that here. So const created item, then we're going to use the services, the item services that we have created, services dot create item by company. And this one, as you can see, takes a company ID and item data that came from the web front end, and then the next function. And then if we failed on created item, so if this returns null, as you can see here, so if it fails, it returns null. So I'm just going to throw error again. Throw new error response. What error response? So yeah, still the same, failed to create item as a error value of that one. And if everything succeeds, then we're just going to be returning the created item. So how about we give this a try? So let's go. Let's give this a try. And yeah, going back to the model now. Wait, where's the model again? Yeah, there you go. So with the item model, it needs a company ID. So we're just going to be putting the company ID, which is already put it in here on the services. Yeah, so yeah, I forgot something, sorry. So we forgot to put the company ID, and then put the item data. So yeah, everything's good now. Sorry, I forgot that one, because I'm supposed to be adding company ID, which is there. So going to create an item. So it receives a body, right? If you can see here on the controller, it receives an item data. This is the item interface, and if you can remember what the item interface is, let me just open it here. Yeah, so this is the item interface. It needs 0 tenant ID. Yeah, so let's just create that one. So 0 tenant ID. So this is just a test to see if it's working. So 0 tenant ID. Yeah, so the next one is, what's that one? A code. So the code is code. Yeah. Alright. And the next one is item ID, item ID, item ID, which is also item ID is sold to false. Yeah, so this purchased to false, and yep, wonder if I can just put something like this. Yeah, actually this is correct because this is a boolean value. So sold is purchased, and the next one is a description. Description of, yeah, it's just description of this. And the next one is going to be extract by as inventory. Yeah, inventory, which is false. The last one is sales details, which has a unit price of number. So let's just add this as 5. Then it has a count code of example. Just put some account code here, like code. And the last one is that it has a tux type. Don't know what tux type is, but let's just check what the tux type is regarding about. I'm just going to reference it in here. So output, yeah, so let's just try putting output. And yeah, so instead of using the actual 0, so I'm just going to use another one, like the dummy one. I'm just going to use another 0 count for this purpose. Pepper pots, pepper.pots, I think, at start industries. Password is, yeah, just remember if I have the correct password for this. It's still loading. Okay, there you go. So going to get this one. This is the 0 ID of pepper pots, which is what I'm going to use instead of the pool SS1. Saving it now, and then let us see if I really have the pepper pots. Yeah, so this is now the pepper pots, so ready to create the item now. Creating the item. Create item. So there you go. So we already created the item, and yeah, so let us check in the database if we really did create the item. So let's just refresh everything here. It's supposed to be adding a new folder here called items if we really did create. Okay, there you go. So now has this new data. So congratulations, we have created the item. We have created the create function. So yeah, I think that's the demo for everything, because create function is just a variation of what's going to be created next. So what I'm going to be creating next is the read, update, and delete. So it's just sort of like this. And yeah, that's all. So I'm just going to push everything now. Yep, thank you.